I heard that instead of toppling the system, we need to give it hospice care.
Yes.
We need to give this system hospice care.
Encore, encore, encore. I call us the 100%. I'm not like them, and I've never liked the them and us thing. And if I ever did that, then I would check myself. Why am I pointing the finger at them? No, what do they need? And that's where the big healing was like, oh, I grew up in, kind of feminist, like, the women against the men, the father against the mother. My parents divorced when I was 4, so that created a huge split in me. But I always loved my dad and I always loved my mom, and they didn't like each other at all. So there was this war. So I really had to like look like in a family war, internal family war. It literally like mom and dad spewing hatred at each other since I was 4 years old, and expectation. Each parent had either an expectation or a suggestion to let go of the other parent. I was like, no, I love my parents. So that was a huge part of my healing, was to understand both sides. And where the man was the villain, and so men and male patriarchy has been vilified way too much, I think, and the white man has been vilified. All of us, the entire world, come from war torn nations, cultures, communities. We've all been in survival. And that was and we might come from it, and we have different coping mechanisms that are within our community that helped us live. We're here because our ancestors were able to help us live without being killed, or a lot of us were enslaved. And whether we were like enslaved, like really enslaved with shackles, or enslaved by the culture, or by a small community or a family. My mom, not let it wasn't slavery, but she grew up working at a restaurant and an inn. That's just what they did. All the Catholics had their children work, and that would be considered child slavery now, but back then it was normal. And so what I'm saying is that that was also the early parts of my healing. Is like a lot of people, I hang out with all kinds of people and traveled the world, and I would be like, they would be like, so where are you from? I'm like, I'm Dutch. I'm Dutch American. I come from Europe, and I come from a culture. And they're like, no, you don't. You're white. You're just white. You don't come from a culture. You're just white. And I was like, no, I actually come from a culture, you know? And I was like, well, why is that the idea of who I am? Because my skin is so white, even though I'm American and I talk American, y'all. So I would do that was the beginning of my journey. Is like, well, what happened to my legacy of humanity, and why are we in pain even though we're the oppressors? Why are we why do we come from oppressing and being, and why do I feel oppressed? What do I come from? So I also channel and do hypnotherapy and regression, and that's been a part of me since I can first remember, like 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. I was really into dreams, and it's been like that my whole life. So, and I felt things from that, and I had visions about the future, about the past, about parallel times, and that's been like that my whole life. So that's why I got into hypnotherapy, and I'm just giving that sub context for what I'm about to tell you, is that I did my hypnotherapy. I dove in, and sometimes I would do it with like weed or DMT or just nothing, because it's easy for me to access. So I accessed and I was taking classes in hypnotherapy and transformative visualization and things like that. And you just let come what needs to come. And so I dove into my DNA, and I went into my mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, my mother, and then I dropped into this one moment where this woman was the leader of a clan in Europe, and it looked kind of like Stonehenge, but it wasn't Stonehenge. It was like that, but it wasn't the Stonehenge. It was similar kind of sacred rock location formation. And I just saw how afraid she was. She was saying, wow, we're losing our culture. And she was having this realization, and only women were around because they had taken our men away. So, and I believe that it was the Romans that had came in. I'm not sure historically, but I just saw it, and took the men away, and there the women were alone to fend for themselves. And we were a very magical culture. We could move these stones. We did hands-on healing. We were literally witches, and we were magical. It was normal for us to do hands-on healing. We lived with the earth. We were one with the elements. So when they took our men away, we realized and we would lose our culture, and we had to hide it. Or, that's kind of what happened in the European centuries of loss through war as well. And I'm the culmination of that, hundreds of years later, through my family, coming from a lineage of healers. We come from healing, and yet rather than healing, we're in fear and pain, and we hurt ourselves.